Yeehaw! It's time for the Texans Squad, sponsored by Gametime. Everything Houston Texans, every week. Bringing you the big hits, game-changing plays, and all the action straight from the Lone Star State. The way only the Locked On Podcast Network can. Saddle up and squad up. It's the Texans Squad Show, starting now.
It's a Squad Show Tuesday. Michael Connor, Iisha Morrison, John Hickman, Stan Norfleet. We're with you Tuesdays and Fridays talking all things Houston Texans. And guess what, guys? We're less than a month from training camp practices being held for the Houston Texans. And it cannot come fast enough.
Thank God.
Yeah. Thank goodness.
We only got 4 weeks.
Yeah, 4 weeks to go. It's going to be fantastic. It's going to go by quicker than you know. Today's episode of the Locked On Texans Squad Show, by the way, is brought to you by FanDuel. Right now, new customers can get $150 in bonus bets when your first $5 bet wins. We got a lot of things to get through tonight. Here on the show, we're going to start taking a look at the schedule ahead in the regular season, start giving some thoughts on the opponents and where the team is going to be standing after some of these games. We also are going to take a look or I should say, go through some of the things that C.J. Stroud had to say over the weekend at the Fanatics Fest, I believe is what it's called, where Tom Brady won money that he gave away to everybody else. But we're going to start tonight in the city of Houston because the city of Houston had a big weekend this weekend. Yes, the baseball team did pretty well, but the basketball team pulled off a trade for an all-time great in Kevin Durant. And you're saying, well, Michael, why are you bringing this up? Well, because our wonderful Stan Norfleet, who's going to start us here, came up with this idea earlier today. If there was a trade out there, a Kevin Durant-like trade for the Houston Texans, which, first of all, by the way, I'm super excited. This just a basketball note, I'm so excited to see Kevin Durant as a Rocket. I think it's a great fit. I think it's going to be awesome, and I'm looking forward to doing post-game shows for Rockets this season where they win a lot of games with KD in the lineup. But is there a trade out there, a KD-like trade, realistic one, for the Texans that could move the needle like the KD one has actually moved the needle for the Rockets?
Yeah, absolutely. Let me start off by a shout out to Jackson Gatlin, Locked On Rockets. The home appreciate JG for everything that he does with the Locked On Rockets pod. I've mentioned this name before, and it's still a situation to monitor. And we're going to have to go back. Yes, John, offensive side of the football, I am still uneasy until I'm not. And yes, we're going back to the wide receiver room. Yes,
Tyreek Hill, Miami?
No.
Justin Jefferson.
Stop it. We said realistic. I'm going to Florham Park, New Jersey. I'm going to the headquarters of the New York Jets, and I am trading for Garrett Wilson as he enters his fourth year, still on a rookie contract. Obviously familiar with C.J. Stroud, given they are both former first-round picks from the Ohio State. 6 foot, 183, has started 17 games the last 2 seasons, averaging 93 receptions, 1,100 yards, and a total of 14 touchdowns over those 3 years. Offensive Rookie of the Year in 2022. Oh, yeah, and he ran 4.38 coming out. Still in his early 20s, brother's approaching his mid-20s, given, again, he's entering his 4th year in the National Football League. He happens to be a late Travis over in Austin, Texas. So you bring him back to the Lone Star State where he feels comfortable, surrounded by his people. Look, for Garrett Wilson, he's been that productive in a place that has been defunct. The Aaron Rodgers experience didn't work. Now they bring in Aaron Glenn in his first year over there, as well as Justin Fields, who's a journeyman at this point, to run the quarterback spot. I just think if you put Garrett Wilson alongside Nico, a Christian Kirk, and unlike Kirk, Garrett Wilson has been healthy the majority of his career, not to mention Christian Kirk will be a free agent after the season, and we don't know if we will see Tank Dale be Tank Dale again. So my vote would be, hey, look, Jets, you're starting over. You're a new franchise, or I should say it's a new era in your franchise. Here are some draft choices. Caserio has the chamber loaded in terms of picks that he can utilize, a la the Rockets. Man, go get Garrett Wilson and stop playing.
Garrett Wilson.
Aisha, John, who?
That's a tough one, Iisha.
I don't know. I feel like I'm still thinking of who who I think would actually benefit the team right now. I mean, obviously, receiver is the big position to be looking at. We don't even talk about the defensive side of the ball like y'all talking about last time.
But then it's also who's out there. I'm sorry. It's just who's realistically available on defense. Jalen Ramsey, the pass rusher, Hendrickson in Cincinnati. But go ahead. I'm sorry. It's more about the availability.
Yeah, that's the only other gentleman I would think about is maybe a Jalen Ramsey if you wanted the security for the corner room. But they seem like they kind of are set with the guys they have. Depending on how this wide receiver room looks like, maybe a Traylon Burks. Depending on how you feel. I mean, I don't know
from Tennessee.
Yes, he's awful. They benched him.
Lord help us.
Yeah, they benched him, but we don't know. I'm just talking about the wide receiver position, and again, it's not a lot of guys that are even available for you to maybe try to make that room better. If you're not comfortable with what you got, so I don't know, man. It's slim pickings out here,
based on what the Texans need.
Yeah, the Texans need. Oh, if you want to ask for something, I mean, they took care of the running back position, which I think was important by getting Chubb. So they kind of already did the big thing, I guess you want to say. So it's like the only other position is receiver, and who really giving up a good receiver right now? Ain't nobody.
Traylon Burke, this is probably the first time I'm gonna have to heavily agree.
No, you can disagree with me. I'm literally just looking at the list of guys available, and I'm just like Quentin Johnson.
Yeah.
So no, you don't want none of them.
I look at the situation in Miami.
What he's gonna do for the Rockets?
I look at the situation in Miami, and I think to myself, well, lately within the last 2 weeks, we've heard a lot of reports coming out of how Mike McDaniels is running Miami, disgruntled players. Guys are like, man, I may not even want to be here no more. But the hottest name around that entire team for the past 2 seasons, whether it's for good, almost cracking 2K, or whether it's for reasons outside of football, that's Tyreek Hill.
Yeah, you're right. I should have said that.
And if we look at what Kevin Durant and the expectations, Kevin Durant expectations, and I'm a huge Rockets fan, by the way. I mean that figuratively and literally.
I'm excited too.
For sure.
Kevin Durant expectation is to be the guy that can take the young talent over the top. Mm-hmm. Okay, young talent here in Houston, CJ Stroud. I don't know about you guys, but at this point in his career, I'd rather have CJ Stroud as my quarterback than Tua Tagovailoa, and a lot of that has to do with health issues. The young receiver in Nico Collins, the young rookie receivers in Higgins and Noel. And so I look at Tyreek Hill, Super Bowl champ. We know that he is still explosive when he is locked in on football. I think last year there was too much going on surrounding Hill in his personal life, plus quarterback up and down. So I would look at Tyreek Hill as a guy that if Houston can figure it out how to trade for Tyreek Hill, what that value is, because it does feel like it's inevitable that Tyreek and Miami will go their separate ways. He is a player that I truly believe could help bring all of this young talent. He's a winner. He's played with arguably the second best, for a lot of people, the greatest quarterback of all time, in Patrick Mahomes. But he's played with dynamic quarterbacks and a dynamic offensive coordinator. It'll be Tyreek Hill for me. Now, I'm going to throw this name out for y'all. I also want to throw out Jamon Williams. How would you guys feel if Houston looked to go get George Kittle if things are not working out in San Fran? They just paid Brock Purdy. It seems like at some point San Fran is going to they're going to have to make a decision on who they want to keep, who they're going to move on from.
And George Kittle, give him a big deal too?
4 years, $76 million. Yeah, 2025, he has a $14 million cap hit we just talked about last week. The $15 million Houston has in salary cap. 2026, $16 million. 2027, $17 million. That's around the time they are expecting to pay CJ. But he's an aging vet, tight end, 31 years old.
Can do
still
it all.
Has some good football left in him.
Can do
and
it
I
all.
look at Kevin Durant. Do you feel like George Kittle can be that for that tight end room in the offense altogether?
I agree. I mean, when you think about what George Kittle can do, I mean, we talked about it last week, even with about Dalton Schultz, is what he's going to be asked to do as a blocker and stuff. Kittle can do all of that. Kittle also is going to bring respect. Like people respect him on the field as a receiver. He's a guy that has some yak ability, has some wiggle. So for me,
He's tough.
he's super tough. And if that's something that Houston is trying to kind of bolster, like it sounds like from hearing the OC talk about the team, that's something that they want. Y'all took all the good ones. Garrett Wilson, Tyreek Hill was one I totally forgot about, John. Totally forgot about. That I think Tyreek Hill out of all of them could change the conversation.
Here's the if Tyreek Hill realistically does become available, because it's still like John, I agree with you. I do feel like it's inevitable that the situation's going to come down to the point where they don't want to be together anymore. There's been, there was already the rumors about it. Yeah, there's the rumors about it earlier this offseason, then he backed off of it and everything. You can always please these guys with more guaranteed money, of course, if that was the case. But if he was available, is he the kind of fit? Like in terms of the, we talk a lot about the locker room and the culture. Does he fit that locker room? And
they
that
just
culture?
signed Damon Arnett, and again, Damon Arnett may not make the roster, but
John,
if they want to take a shot on Damon Arnett, who isn't proven in the NFL at all, then I think that they feel like Tyreek Hill is a player, even with everything that he has going on. He's a player that can he get us over the hump? Yes, he can. Can we manage any of the quote-unquote negativities, the negative things that may come with Tyreek Hill? Yes, we can. They took on Stephon Diggs, and Stephon Diggs had some things going on legally and I ain't going to say illegally, but things going on off the field last year. So I don't see why not take a chance on Tyreek Hill.
So I want to add a couple things with the character of a player like Tyreek Hill. You mentioned Damon Arnett. They just signed John. I also want to know D'Amico and Nick Caserio brought in Deontay Johnson, the wide receiver, formerly of the Carolina Panthers, formerly of the Baltimore Ravens, formerly of the Pittsburgh Steelers. So they have taken their chances. Not to mention, look, Steph Diggs had a lot of questions around what was going on with him in Buffalo, getting into it, maybe a little contentious, him and Josh Allen prior to his arrival coming in the last season as well. So I don't think that much bothers them. For me, I look at I'm not going to be dismissive of the Tyreek Hill piece is, he can still take the top off the defense. They don't have anybody on the roster that does what Tyreek Hill just does. He just clocked this past week. He just clocked 10.15 in the 100-meter dash.
May no allow say I ain't racing.
Yeah, like speed is still, even though Tyreek is getting up in age, speed is still not an issue for him. He can catch the football. People aren't going to like this, but he's going to get Hall of Fame votes, given what he has done in his career. Still explosive. I get the Kevin Durant just from, an age, a proven vet, somebody that can elevate. I don't know what it would cost to get him, figuratively speaking. But Tyreek Hill is somebody that I have forgotten about that one. But I know that he ran that 10-1-5 to show the rest of the NFL it's for real. Can I throw two names real quick since we're here and get y'all to react? And again, this is realistic people at a position for the Texans that could take them to the next level, a la Kevin Durant, what he's going to do for the Rockets. The two names, albeit unlikely for one. Terry McLaurin held out of minicamp and mandatory OTAs. Wide receiver out of Washington with the Commanders, that is. Scary Terry, 30 years old, approaching 30 years old, I believe, late 20s. He's somebody I keep my eye on. Again, Ohio State, great locker room guy, does and says all the right things at the podium and off the field. Garrett Wilson is somebody I would have no issue with the Texans, and he's going to elevate that wide receiver room, no question. And the other one, Iisha, let's come up I-45. No, not CD. I'll stop this.
Who you talking about?
If things get bumpy up there in North Texas and they decide mid-season to move on from George Pickens.
Pass.
George Pickens is somebody that I would believe I would add to this locker room, and there is no one in there other than Nico that can match his skill set. Let's see how this thing goes in Dallas. I'm saying if they aren't in contention to win the division as we get towards the deadline, I think about George Pickens.
I'm talking about Michael. What you say passed so hard for?
I don't think he fits what they want to do in terms of guys. I mean, I know that we just talked about the Arnett thing, but he's worn out his welcome with Pittsburgh. I feel like he's going to be one of those receivers that goes there where he goes. He's going to wear out his welcome everywhere he's at. Well, that's just a vibe I catch.
There's a lot of depth to the Pickens thing. I can say down here in North Texas, he's been great since he's gotten here. But even so, to talk about his character, I talked to a scout with the Steelers when the team in North Texas acquired him, and it just seemed like it was time. But they don't think that like the guy in the locker room and as far as in the film room and stuff is he works really hard. So I ain't. We're not gonna go there because the team in North Texas need him too. So
well, can I give you guys
because this is a contract year for Pickens, so they got to make a decision.
That's a conversation. That's a conversation that's been had down here. Is do you get ahead of it? Is this something you try to take care? And I do agree with you, Stan. Is that I think the team here could decide maybe if they see enough from him in 5-6 games mid-season, maybe they're trying to even get ahead of the contract, because if he has a really good year here, then that price tag is going to go up. But Tyreek Hill, you pulled that from the freaking lot, John. I totally forgot about Tyreek.
Let me give y'all one more here that we haven't.
No, I'm gonna call all three of you out.
What?
No, it's interesting. We spent a lot of time talking about wide receiver.
Oh my!
But y'all are so confident in both those young rookies.
Well, we spent a lot of time last year talking about what Jalen Green can do. Got to the playoffs, didn't do it. This whole conversation is what player in the NFL can get the Houston Texans over the top, like Kevin Durant.
If you felt good about the wide receiver room, then why are we having all this conversation?
And one more from me in terms
of
somebody that we've overlooked here. What if things go poorly in Tampa? Mike Evans coming home to Houston.
They just paid it
all. He's on last year's contract. This is it. Deal.
You are right. You're right. They gave him some. They advanced him some money. Correct. You're right. You're right. This is the last year of that deal. I'd be down for Mike Evans.
Y'all praying on downfall.
Say that again.
Y'all praying on downfall right now. John, do something.
I'm looking at it from a perspective. Tyreek Hill is he's an unstoppable force when healthy and has a quarterback that can give him the ball. He's going to 1,700 yard seasons. Like that's cheetah.
Yeah, and he's going to take it off those kids too and help them out. Also.
Now, I also, and this may be because, and I know we got to move on, but this is a great conversation, and I'll probably look more into this on the show because I'm wondering. We didn't mention the one, the unit that needs a lot of help too with the uncertainty. I wonder what tradable guards are out there in the NFL, and it's kind of tough because if you got a good guard, you ain't trading them.
And the guard money is always affordable. You're not going broke by paying your guard
wide receiver
like you do the other skill positions.
That's right. But that's a tough one.
Okay, so y'all gonna hate me for this too, but this is what we do. Bleep it. It's the Texan squad.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Just say it.
I love Daniil Hunter. I think he's excellent for what he does. They just gave him some new money, which extends his contract another year.
Bye, John.
He's got another year. You know they're going to pay Will Anderson Jr.
Yeah.
What would DeMeco Ryans do with a versatile piece if the Cowboys can't get Micah Parsons together?
Oh, y'all are going to jail.
Michael Parsons was getting an interview with KD over the weekend. Said he's going to be down in Houston, checking in on his boy playing in Houston.
Who's Michael Parsons' boy? CJ. No, I'm being serious. So
I mean, CJ's called him a delusional cowboy on many occasions.
As have several others.
Y'all.
What a guy in Michael Parsons that can rush the passer from the inside. He can rush from the edge. He can rush standing up. He can play off the ball. So for one season. And I'd have to go look at Daniil's money, the dead cap money, if they were to move on after the 25 season. But you give Micah the long-term cash. Who's not going to get pissed off? The quarterback's not going to be pissed off if his man gets the bread. I'm not saying it's likely to happen. We're just talking about making a strength stronger.
We all know Jerry's never letting him leave. He's just playing it out like he's done with everybody else.
Michael Smart.
Dead cap in 2025 for Danielle Hunter, $64.8 million.
What's the 26 number? Not this year, the next year.
$45.1 million.
45?
Hey, he is locked in. He ain't going anywhere, Stan.
It's the 45. I love Danielle Hunter. I'm cool with it. I'm just thinking about pieces. Like where's another piece that makes sense? So Danielle Hunter's dead money 2026 is 45 million.
45.
Yeah, they're not moving off that.
How much better are you trying to get at guard? Are you trying to get NFL starter capable, or are you trying to get like a mover?
We said Kevin Durant.
Oh, I keep forgetting that we're talking about Kevin Durant. It narrows it down so
Come on,
much.
Goats only.
Not like we are in the offseason. You're not about to find no Kevin Durant.
And that's why I think none of us mentioned offensive lineman, because if you got a good one, if you got a good
help for ransom.
If you got a good guard in this NFL where guards are getting abused on twists and twists, you probably ain't moving on from them.
Nah. And speaking of, that other team in North Texas gonna have to pay that left guard next year, Tyler Smith. So it's tough out here.
Look, you're not getting a starting caliber guard, and let's be frank. A guard, if they went in, you just made me think about North Texas. We talked a lot about the Cowboys on the show. If the Texans had Travis Frederick at his peak, if they had Quentin Nelson, if they had who am I trying to say at guard?
Zach Martin?
Zach Martin, thank you. If they had Zach Martin in his peak, if they had Quentin Nelson, the guard position is not taking the Texans into Baltimore and winning the game.
Yeah.
The only thing that's doing that is a running back, a tight end, a wide receiver. You're not improving the quarterback. Or you got to go get another playmaker on defense that's just different. Hence the Michael Parsons conversation. Mm-hmm. So, you are correct, Iisha, in that there are only a finite amount of dudes that you're adding to this Texans roster that's going to catapult them to the next level. Now, what are you willing to pay to go get that done? I would be cool with adding a Jalen Ramsey at the right price.
I agree.
That's a guy at the cornerback spot is getting
safety probably, because
that's who I wanted to mention, but I didn't think he was Kevin Durant-esque.
Oh no, you're still talking about a guy that in his prime, and he's still not old. He's aging, but when he's on the field, Jalen Ramsey's still a dude. No question about that.
Yeah, that's
he's
who I
better
wanted.
than Jair is.
Look at John. What, John?
I'll tell you what.
Which part you got an issue with, Hickman?
John.
Hey man, I'm a firm believer that Jalen Ramsey needs to transition over to safety.
I'm sure his ego, a man who has shown up to the facility in a Brinks truck, would definitely allow that to happen. With that, my fellow Texans talkers, let's move on to some schedule talk. What do you say? John will probably do more debating on the Kevin Durant thing on his show, The Daily Show, here in just a bit. But let's talk about the schedule after this. I want to tell you guys about FanDuel. You know what? Summer sports, well, they're in full swing. And whether you're all about baseball under the lights, golf on the green, or high-stakes action on the soccer field, FanDuel is the best way to make every game even more exciting. You're already following the action. Why not make it a little more thrilling? With FanDuel, you can get in on the game while your friends are getting sunburned at the beach. I've been using FanDuel to track my favorite matchups, and the app keeps it fresh with new daily promotions and fun ways to bet. It's easy to use, fast to pay out, and makes every regular season game feel like must-watch events. Whether I'm placing a same-game parlay or watching a bet right into the ninth inning, FanDuel makes it feel like I'm part of the action. New to FanDuel, new customers can bet just $5 and get $150 in bonus bets if your first bet wins. Open the FanDuel app today or visit FanDuel.com to get started. Texan Squad show on a Tuesday. I'm Michael Connor, Iisha Morrison, John Hickman, Stan Norfleet.
Got the club going up.
It's going up on Tuesday. We're with you Tuesdays and Fridays here on the show. John, of course, handles the Locked On podcast, Locked On Texans podcast, The Daily Show, which you need to be checking out. He's going to get you primed, completely primed. We're getting you primed for training camp, but he's going to get you really primed with the daily look there. We've been talking about the Kevin Durant situation with the Rockets and how that relates to the Texans. And if there's a team or a trade out there that you'd make, that would be the equivalent. Let's go ahead and start taking a look. We'll probably do this over a couple segments here because we got 4. We're going to do a quarterly look as we're creeping in on the regular season, 4 games at a time. bite them off in chunks. The Texans' first 4 games of the regular season this year at the Rams, home for the Buccaneers. Maybe Mike Evans getting a preview of his new stadium. I was going back to last segment, which he's not. At Jacksonville, and then home against Tennessee. So let's go ahead and start with the first one. Now, guys, if you go to places like FanDuel, I've mentioned this before, Texans are a road dog to start the season. I know it's a long ways off. Teams are not set. Injuries are going to happen in training camp, but I can't lie to you. I'm not the biggest believer in the Los Angeles Rams hype. I know it's first game of the season. Everybody's going to be charged up for it, but I just don't buy it all. I think it'll be a tough game, but I think it's a very winnable game to start the season for the Texans. What do you guys think? Iisha, we can start with you.
Yeah, looking at the Rams, I feel like their roster is pretty set. Obviously, Jared Verse and Brendan Fisk came in and wreaked some havoc last year on that defensive line. Now, as far as their offensive line goes, obviously they went out and got, if I'm not mistaken, Devontae Adams this offseason. But I will say they do have something going on with their left tackle, and I will got to keep an eye on it. Sounds like he had blood clots this offseason, and that could be a huge decision making. They just paid him Alaric Jackson, if I'm not mistaken, offensive tackle out of Iowa. He's been pretty solid for them as they tried to rebuild this offensive line. But keeping an eye on that because, man, Houston is the type of team that if you ain't got the proper tackle work, it can be a long day for you. So, yeah, I feel like it's a bit of a gauntlet offensively to start. No, I mean, when you talk about the Bucs, I feel like the Bucs went all out in the draft. Even so, that offense seems like it's going to be fiery. The Rams picked up some speed last year. How do you guys feel about this defense going up against these shifty, get out in space, motion activated offenses that they're going to see?
John, if you want to go, I'm going to speak to the Rams specifically to start and work my way through. But you go ahead if you want, John.
That's cool.
So we're looking at opening up against LA. Next week after that, going to Tampa or playing the Bucs.
Tampa comes to Houston.
Monday Night Football.
Yeah, Monday Night Football. Tampa comes to the H, and then 2 division games back to back. Right
on the road at Jacksonville. Titans come here week 4.
2 cakewalk wins.
So and I agree because they're gonna catch them early. LA is a game for me where I think, and I've said this all off season. The LA game could be a very good indicator game on the type of team Houston will be in 2025. The storylines, of course, Nick Caley versus McVay and everything that comes with that. But also, guys, I don't think people realize how good Matthew Stafford played the second half of last season.
Talk about it.
And just to kind of talk, briefly talk football. Matthew Stafford is a top 5 quarterback in the NFL.
Whoa.
Matthew Stafford.
Whoa.
Matthew Stafford is he's a gunslinging. Also, so many ways Matthew Stafford can be the defense. He's extremely intelligent. And then when he got with Sean McVay, somebody that was able to make his job a whole lot easier. He won a Super Bowl. I've always been a big fan of Matthew Stafford, but nonetheless, like that game is going to be an indication on what type of team the Houston Texans will be. I think that's going to be a closer game. Now, obviously, we're way in June. We ain't even in July yet. But I can see the Houston Texans starting off their season 3-1, losing the season opener against the LA Rams. But I like that matchup to kick it off because on the opposite side, as I talk about Matthew Stafford, Iisha, as you pointed out, hey, them young boys are different.
Yeah.
Like Verse missed a lot of sacks last year. Like just missed it.
He said he missed 10 sacks.
He missed about 10 sacks.
He said 10.
It's over pursuing.
And it could be a little bit more. Like he could be generous, but I think he ended the season with 4.5 sacks. So like that young man is different. Fisk on the inside, just how he plays. And I look at the question marks surrounding the offensive line for Houston. That's why I believe opening up against LA is a great challenge, both for the offensive side of the ball for the Houston Texans and defensively for the Houston Texans going up against a cerebral quarterback in Matthew Stafford. Outside of that, man, I think Tampa can be one of those games, but I'm not sure yet on Tampa. And Tampa, I think, had the highest scoring offense in the league last season. Will that continue? Will that change? They lost. Cohen is was it Cohen in Tampa last year?
Leon Cohen,
yeah, he was in Tampa, so he's in Jacksonville now, and we'll see how that offense rebounds. But I think the first 4 games of the season we'll get an opportunity to see the Houston Texans get a very good view of an up and down. You're going to play the best of the best. You're going to play the lows of the lows. How will you respond in each of those games? The 2 division games to kick it off that early, I also think that's a blessing in disguise for the Houston Texans.
Kobe Turner on the edge as well, John. He can get after it too. Got some quickness to him. So
they got it. They got it over there.
Yeah,
and they built it through the draft. Like they got it over there, man. LA did a very good job of quickly rebuilding from what a lot of people believe is the greatest D tackle of all time in Aaron Donald. They did a very good job of getting those young guys, scouting those young guys, rebuilding that D line. And it seems like from edge to edge, they got disruptors all across their front.
What you got, Stan?
All right. Rams 3-point favorite. CJ Stroud goes back to LA for the first time in front of his home people. And he's going up against the guy that he thinks symbolizes his game the most. CJ has raved about watching cut-ups of Matthew Stafford and what he does in the pre-snap with limited physical ability. He's able to dice you up. He's still an above-average starter. I think it's aggressive to put him in the top 5. I will most certainly put him in the top 10, Matthew Stafford, especially when he's attached with Sean McVay. You mentioned Nick Caley, first-time play caller going back against the former boss and Sean McVay there in Los Angeles. Chris Shula, defensive coordinator, don't know much about his systems and his personnel. Nonetheless, Jared Verse, Braden Fisk, Kobe Turner is a guy that lined up on the interior with Aaron Donald a season or 2 ago, a guy that had more sacks than Aaron Donald the last time Donald had on a Rams uniform. Really like what they've done there. You were right. The addition of Devontae Adams at the wide receiver, along with Puka Nacua, that is a formidable passing attack with someone that we have not mentioned. Kyren Williams is a top 5 back in this league. Kyren Williams has been excellent in the Rams offense with McVay. 7th in rushing, top 5 could be. He's somewhere in that 5 to 8 range. He was 7th in rushing with nearly 1,300 yards a year ago, averaging 4.1 yards per carry, 14 rushing touchdowns for Kyren Williams behind an offensive line that wasn't that great. But again, McVay, the coaching staff, that system, I think from a personnel standpoint, especially being at home, especially to start the year, which I'll get to in just a second, it makes sense to me why the Rams are favored. Now, the biggest issue I have with this, I look at D'Amico, and there's some things that I'm uncomfortable with our guy D'Amico, who I revere. But here are the facts. With more than a week to prepare for a ball game through 2 seasons, D'Amico Ryan's record is 3-3. Now, one of those 3 is disqualified because it was week 18 last year at the Tennessee Titans when everything was already sorted. So the Titans wasn't really playing. They knew they were trying to get the first pick, and the Texans already knew they were going to win the division from my memory. So you're really 2-3. Only one of those 2 wins has come on the road. So this is D'Amico with more than a week to prepare. That's to start a season, and that's coming off a bye week. That gives me cause to pause there. You have to look at stuff like that. So do I have confidence that the Texans can go on the road and win that game week 1? Sure. They've got the personnel, we think, early on with everybody healthy to compete. But here's the other part that we need to give some consideration to. This Rams unit is primarily intact, minus bringing over Devontae Adams. That's potentially 4 new starters on the Texans offensive line. And if you count Titus in a different starting position, it takes time for that offensive line to build continuity. So they could essentially have 5 new starters with Titus playing the right guard, and you got 2 rookies out there at wide receiver, and you got a new play call in Nick Caley. I think specific to the Rams, this is a tough matchup. I'm saying right now, today on whatever, June 24th, I'm saying that's a loss for the Houston Texans.
I want to ask something really quick. In 2024, Week 9 against the New York Jets, Derek Stingley held Devontae Adams 1 catch, 5 targets, 5 yards. And also the Houston Texans, we talk a lot about how bad of a job they did in terms of run blocking in 2024. I can't remember if we talked about this on this show or if I talked about it on the Locked On Texans show, but I talked about at one point how towards the end of the year we saw a difference in running styles, more power gap. Weeks 1 through 13, the Texans' man blocking percentage by week 7%, which was 29th in the NFL. Weeks 14 through the divisional round, 22%, 9th in the NFL. They changed the way that they block, which helped the Houston Texans be a little bit more productive running team. So I do look at Derek Stingley in that matchup against Devontae Adams, and I say, man, I trust Sting over there. Kamari Lassiter in year 2. Kamari Lassiter in year 2 is where, again, it's all about adversity early in the season for him, because going into year 2, the league has tape on you. You know, now we'll get an opportunity to see how much better he got over in the offseason. I like Kamari's physicality going up against Puka Nacua, but Puka can move all around that offensive formation, and that could spell trouble. So, again, week 1 opening up against the LA Rams. I don't know about you guys, but I like to see a team with high expectations face adversity early, and I think going up against the Rams with a lot of the question marks Houston has is a blessing in disguise.
I wanted to ask about the Titans because Michael said that that's like a cakewalk win.
Well, I'll tell you what.
And we're going to do it after? Yeah.
Let's do it after this here on the Locked On Texans Squad Show. Squad Show on a Tuesday. Michael Connor, Iisha Morrison, John Hickman, and Stan Norfleet. And before our quick little timeout there, if you're listening to this later on, Iisha brought it up. We're going to go through the other games in that schedule, but she thinks that I'm probably crazy for some reason that the Titans are a cakewalk win. I don't understand. So go ahead. We're going to give you the floor here. Tell me what I did wrong.
I don't think that you're crazy, but Stan said on this show, he said it last week, he said it don't take forever to turn a team around. And honestly, there are some pieces on the Titans that aren't bad. You look at their backfield, Tajay Spears, Tony Pollard. Those are 2 guys that can obviously run the ball but have receiving capabilities. Who's the coverage linebacker for the Texans? Who we depending on to be the coverage guy?
It'll be Aziz or Christian Harris if he get on the field.
All right, so we're betting on Aziz being that guy and being level-headed. Got it. They added Tyler Lockett. We already talked about Traylon Burks. Don't go there with me. I don't feel like hearing it. They got a couple guys on their offensive line. I know that they're like, when you look at their roster, it looks all over the place. But do we know that Cam Moore is not going to come in and be a difference maker? They have enough pieces on their offensive line.
So I do.
A good offensive line. I'm just saying, like, I understand the expectation is to win because they have not been that good the last couple years. However, you literally just saw Washington do this with adding a couple of free agents and then getting after it. They also got another edge from UCLA who is a big dog, and I think is going to be a good addition next to on the other side of Jeffrey Simmons.
And Sweat. No, I think it's crazy. I caught a lot of flack for this. I have Houston beating, sweeping the Colts. I have them losing a game apiece to both Tennessee and Jacksonville. But I think Houston catching them early. Cam is going to have to figure out some things at the NFL level, the NFL speed. And if there was one knock on Cam, it was how cool he is, right? So the first 4 games of the season, I give that favor to the Houston Texans.
That's fair.
Here's a weird little quirk of the season, too. We'll talk about the other ones later, but they play Jacksonville, Tennessee, back-to-back weeks twice this year, which is very odd. But I have no respect for the Tennessee Titans organization. I think that they're poorly run. I think that they have always hired bad coaches, and I think that they're outside of a couple, and I just expect them to be bad. I think the Texans live in the worst division in the sport, I think it's going to help them every single year.
No question.
Fair.
Tampa lives in a very bad division as well.
Yeah, both the Souths stink.
Just think.
Who's the other team?
The Titans right now are 5.5 point underdog coming in the NRG in week 4.
It'll be bigger by the time they get here.
Say that again.
It'll be higher by the time it gets here. Bet you has at least 7.5.
The Titans open week 1 at Denver. That's probably a loss. Rookie quarterback's first game. You think about C.J. Stroud on the road, albeit at Baltimore, but still a playoff team in Denver. C.J. Stroud, DeMeco Ryans lose week 1. I anticipate that Callahan and Cam Ward will lose week 1 at Denver. Week 2, congratulations. You host, that's right, the L.A. Rams for everything that we just said about the Rams. Week 3, divisional opponent. They're at home, the Indianapolis Colts, and then they come on the road, second road trip, first division road game for Cam Ward. I look at that roster, and Calvin Ridley can still play. They paid him. He deserved the money. Calvin Ridley, is a real dude. Tyler Lockett still has some tread left on the tires coming from Seattle. We've seen Tyler Lockett over the years and what he can do. The offensive line outside of Lloyd Cushenberry, who's one of the best interior at that center spot, that pivot spot. I like Cush. He's a baller. They're okay on the offensive line. They spend a lot of draft capital. J.C. Latham at the right tackle is a first-round pick, as was Skoronski, the left guard. They've done a good job in throwing picks at it. It just hasn't been able to gel. Perhaps Callahan and his dad, Brian Callahan, who is thought to be one of the best offensive line coaches in the history of the game, perhaps they can bring something together and provide some chemistry there. Defensively, I just don't see the personnel. It's the National Football League. You just don't know. Other than Jeff Simmons, he's the one that makes them go. I heard you mention Sweat Hickman, but clearly Simmons is the dude. And it comes down to, can Simmons and Sweat get after this new offensive line? That'll be 4 games in. We'll see what the rotation has it settled. How are they holding up? Tennessee doesn't scare me. I've got the Texans winning that game, albeit because it's mostly at home. Tennessee doesn't frighten me. But you got to respect that it's the league, and you just don't know where you're going to be at any
division
given point.
Game.
Correct.
Aloafemi, Aladejo. I'm telling you, we're gonna see him on the edge, and if that tackle situation is not settled out, I expect for him to end up being at this end of camp for the Titans. I expect for him to end up being a defensive end too. Truly, the rookie out of UCLA.
Yeah, they took him in the second round out of UCLA.
Yeah, and got to see him at the Senior Bowl, and he whooped on everybody's favorite tackles in this draft. So I think he is going to earn that spot, and I am going to keep an eye out on him, when this matchup comes up. But I agree with you. It does feel like the Titans don't really have a plan. It feels like they just kind of put a whole bunch of stuff together and hope it works. So that'll probably work out in Houston's favor.
What does the next 4 games look like for the Houston Texans? I know that there's a bye week 6, but after they get through with those back-to-back division games, because we're looking at the schedule.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, we were going to do the first 4, John. This show is just going to be the first 4 games.
Oh, okay. I'm sorry. My apologies.
And then next week we'll do the next 4, so on and so forth.
My apologies. I misunderstood.
So we can go to Tampa week 2 if you like and backtrack. Mike, what you want to do?
Yeah, no, that's fine. I was going to add, we kind of skipped over them a bit. Tampa's an interesting team. I think, John, you mentioned it earlier, getting kind of a sense for what the Texans are going to look like this season. You get week 1 against it. Look, I might not believe the hype, but that's a good football team that's going to be contending for the playoffs, we believe, if they stay healthy. In the Rams, I think the same thing, like I mentioned, the NFC South stinks, but Baker Mayfield last year, love him or hate him, threw for a ton of yards and a ton of touchdowns. Like, he's probably buying himself or getting himself a lot more money coming to him in the very near future based off the way he's played last year. They've got their weapons coming back. It's you don't expect them to be a bad team by any means. What do we think about that team coming in week 2? Monday Night Football. I don't know. They usually do the whiteout.
It's gonna be one of the.
You gotta respect Tampa Bay, man.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, losing Cohen is interesting. I want to take a look at who their new OC is, and get some ideas on how he likes to do his business. But when you just look at
Grizzard.
Okay, well,
Gizzard.
Yeah.
Grizzard with an R.
Michael, please. I will look it up, but I will say defensively for the Texans, this is going to be. Schematically, we don't know all the details just yet, but I will say, as far as like this guy against this guy, this guy against this guy, this is a team that is going to touch every blade of grass offensively. If it is anywhere near what it was last year, these guys could kill you in the intermediate game, the deep game, and they have Bucky Irvin, who is a handful. So they went out and got Mika Ibuka as well. I just think that they're offensively going to really stress you. Also, Tez Johnson out of Oregon, who can run in the slot and do some things. John, you're probably familiar with them with the draft. It just really depends on what their system looks like. But this was an offense last year that really threatened you at every point on the field. And I am actually really ecstatic to see this Houston defense have to go up against an offense that's not, one-dimensional or anything.
And again, we talk about facing adversity early on. We understand how important it was for the Houston Texans to bring back Foley Fadakausi. The numbers on when he's on the field stopping the run compared to when he's off the field. Houston also brought back Sheldon Rankins. And so obviously they want to make sure that they're a little bit more stable in terms of stopping the run, because when you look at the San Francisco 49ers, or not San Francisco 49ers, excuse me, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, fourth in the NFL last season, rushing yards per game, right under 150. They got 3 running backs, 5.4 yards per carry, 4.3 yards per carry, 6.2 yards per carry. And as much as the conversations we have of Houston Texans offensive line, they don't have those issues down there in Tampa. So no. Tampa is a team, I'd say, very similar to the LA Rams. Houston could come out of their first 4 games 2-2. Good offense. Looks like the new OC, Josh Grizzard, have been there for a while. He's been a passing game coordinator, so he'll probably just step into the role with some familiarity. But that's a team that was extremely good offensively, doing everything a little bit more well-rounded. Top 5 offense, passing offense, top 5 rushing offense. Baker Mayfield was hot. They got a stout offensive line. They can run inside. They can run outside. It's going to be a challenge for Houston, but that is a game that I can see Houston pulling away with.
Yeah.
According to Vegas, right now that game is at a pick'em. Excuse me. Houston is favored by 1.5. That's the next opponent. My apologies. Houston favored by 1.5. Monday Night Football, first home game. First Monday night home game for the Houston Texans. Week 2, when the Bucks come in here. The only other Monday night game in the DeMeco Ryans era was when the Texans played at the Cowboys last season. So when I think about Tampa, and all of you have made some excellent points as it pertains to the personnel, this is one that
should let the dogs out. I'm sorry.
Yeah, it should make DeMeco very nervous.
Yeah.
I think the quarterback position specifically, like Baker Mayfield has done an excellent job salvaging his career. He played well enough in Tampa, albeit an awful division. He played well enough to stabilize and to give them a shot. I think Baker has become extremely comfortable with Mike Evans. We'll see how Chris Godwin responds coming off injury. I think he did an Achilles. I can't receive the Achilles or ACL going off the top of my head, which is why they take Emeka Egbuka in the first round. The offensive line is stout. Tristan Wirfs is an all-pro. They don't have those problems blocking on the edges like that. To me, when I really think about it, it's going to be the same song and dance. This is week 2. So after going up against Jared Verse and Braden Fisk and Kobe Turner, a young group, albeit in LA, the Texans come back to NRG, first game of the year. I believe it is going to be a whiteout. And in front of the nation on Monday Night Football, they got to go up against Vita Vea and Hassan Reddick and Levante David and an former all-pro in his own right in Antoine Winfield Jr. There's ballers on there, guys with a lot of experience. Todd Bowles believes in pressure. CJ got beat up last year. If that offensive line didn't click and in sync in week 2, they're going to send pressure on his butt again. And if you remember back to 2023, they were knocking CJ around and CJ pulled the rabbit out of his hat to save that game with the scoring drive to win that game. We'll see if they can do it again. I don't believe the 2025 team is more talented than the 2023 team, but we'll see when we get there. The Texans in a close one, I understand that would make sense for me, especially on a long week, given that you get you more rest. We'll see DeMeco, having seen Todd Bowles from 2023, that staff is mostly intact. I choose the Texans in a close one.
And I'm trying to find this number.
What you got?
In 2024, Baker Mayfield had 24 turnover-worthy plays, tying for the third most among quarterbacks in 2024, according to Sports Illustrated. His turnover-worthy play percentage was 3.3%, which was the fifth highest among all quarterbacks, while he also had, 15 interceptions, which tied for the most in the NFL. That may also be including the playoffs. So if there's anything Texan fans should be excited about as I read, that is the back half of this Texans defense, the secondary, also with the pressure that those guys are going to cause up front. That's why you mentioned it's a 1-point swing, so it can kind of go either way. That's why Texas fans should look at their game and say, man, you know what? And I've been watching Baker for a long time. Baker was my boy. Baker would hand you the ball.
Yeah,
he'll do that.
Yeah,
and Stingley's, CJ Gardner, Kalen, who had 5 last year. Come on, like that secondary is greedy, and they'll be able to make that game extremely, extremely close by just taking the ball away.
Yeah, Yaya Diaby is someone to keep an eye out on as well.
Yeah, he made some plays last year, very underrated. Yaya Diaby.
Yeah.
All right, so I think we covered them all, right? We hit all 3.
Yeah, it's gonna be a fun start to the season.
I didn't miss any, right?
We haven't done Jacksonville.
Oh, well, I tell you what, we'll finish up with some final thoughts. We'll get through Jacksonville real quick and talk a little bit about what CJ was doing this past week and next during the Locked on Texans Squad show. It's our final segment of the Squad show. Michael Connor, Iisha Morrison, John Hickman, Stan Norfleet. You see us all on a big square here. Somehow, Stan, if you're watching live, has not been sniped yet. I'm just going to say it out loud and hope it doesn't happen for the first time.
You're in my business.
I'm just saying. It hadn't happened yet. You never know. We got a few minutes.
Somebody made that call to the service. Hey man, I can't have this no more.
Can't be getting sniped no more. Let's talk about that last game, the Jacksonville game. Right now, you guys know my affinity for the city of Jacksonville, for the bum that plays quarterback and the goofy owner with the mustache and all those things. Yes, I'm getting weird with it. They're just easy to make fun of. The Duval fans on the internet. Duval. Okay, well, congratulations on literally winning. I mean, now, look, I'll give them this. They've been to more FC championship games than the Texans have. They've been to 2. They've got that on them. But they are just an easy team to – I think they default into being the second best team in the division just because they have a little bit more experience at the quarterback position. I don't think he's a very good quarterback, is my opinion. But – to me, I look at that Jacksonville game, and I just expect it. Now, the question is going to be is how heated is it going to be? Last time they played there, got a little tense. So what do we think about that one?
Oh, you guys, let you
go ahead, Iisha.
No. I'll wait. I want to hear. I feel like there's some beef in the room with Jacksonville. I just want to hear what y'all got to say.
I think Jacksonville fans, they just kind of take it too far.
Yeah.
That's all it is, man. You know, those guys got a shot in the playoffs a couple of years ago. They were up big, squandered it away. They were leading the division 2023. Houston caught them. They talked all that mess last season. Wasn't worth a damn. Then their GM, who, I mean, no disrespect to him, but he looks like a middle schooler right now, maybe more in shape than I am, so credit to him, made a ballsy trade for Travis Hunter. They're doing a lot of shredding of bad contracts, so they're getting guys out of there. I think that they still believe in Trevor Lawrence, but the first 4 games of the season, it's kind of like the reservations we have for the Texans offensive line. I just have those same reservations for that entire team. And I don't know if they're going to be good enough to beat the Houston Texans. Like, I don't know what the number is on the over-under on that game right now, but Jacksonville don't scare me.
Jacksonville is a pick'em.
What?
According to ESPN Bet, week 3 is a pick'em.
Well, I mean, I think it's mostly that way just because of
they're getting the home field advantage of 3 points.
That, and also some of the guys that they've added, obviously added Travis Hunter, Brian Thomas Jr. is there as well. Travis Etienne, Tank Bugsby. Bill Bigsby is a problem. He's frustrating. I think that they're basing that off of their expected offensive firepower. I guess that's what they're doing right now. It's going to be a really big test. I think this is going to be a great test for a Brian Thomas Jr. and a Travis Hunter going up against the Houston secondary, though. I think it could be obviously probably the key matchup, especially if we're not sure about this Jacksonville offense. How quick is Trevor Lawrence going to have to get this ball out? How's that going to work?
Yeah, because who's on the offensive line now?
I was going to say Jacksonville's had a hard time on the offensive line. Cam Robinson got jettisoned out there. He got dealt last year in a trade. So Walker Little's their left tackle, and then they essentially went into free agency. They bring in Robert Hainsey from Tampa to play center. Patrick McCarr is at right guard. Anton Harrison they took out of Oklahoma, I believe, in the first round in 2023. So they just like who was that we just said they thrown a lot of bodies, just like Tennessee. They put a lot of draft capital into the offensive line, including Cam Robinson, who's not there anymore. Ezra Cleveland, they bring over a veteran from Minnesota. Mm-hmm. I think this is about, can Liam Cohen get the best version out of Trevor Lawrence? I think it is going to be critical. They're going to be amped up. Aziz and the rest of the Texans can't get caught up in dealing with the get-back game. The Jags are going to be ready to go. Jacksonville opens Carolina in Jacksonville at Cincinnati, and then here comes Houston into their house. So they'll be coming back from Cincinnati. Don't know if Cincinnati will get their pound of flesh or not. Tough to know what the Bengals will do given where they are with their contract situation with their young first rounder and their all-pro Trey Hendrickson. That being said, there's one name, and it's not Trevor Lawrence, that gives me some trepidation. I have confidence, as the Texans have done twice in the DeMeco Ryans era, both years. They've gone on the road and won at Jacksonville. So I feel like they can go do it again. Hard part, there's a dude over there that rushes the passer that absolutely dominated the Houston Texans, and that was an offensive line with Laramie Tunzalone. Josh Hines-Allen is a guy. And when he gets motivated and ready to go, there are very few people in this league that can block him. So when I think about that offensive line with Blake Fisher or Ariante Ursery out there, one of those tackle spots, and Cam Robinson that wasn't good, even though Cam knows this group, I got to believe that Josh Hines-Allen got his licks when they were going up against each other during those one-on-ones and that pass rush in Jacksonville when they went practice. So when I think about Josh Hines-Allen, former first round or former number one overall Trayvon Walker, I think about guys that can rush the pass and get after it. Tyson Campbell is formidable, second round pick out of Georgia back in 2022. He got his money last year as well, so he's feeling good and comfortable. And then you just don't know, what you're going to get out of Travis Hunter. I like Travis Moore as a corner. They're going to use him at wide receiver as well. I would not just poo-poo and be dismissive of Jacksonville. We'll see what Liam Cohen, the offensive mind, brings to the table coming from Tampa. I think this is going to be an interesting game. And if you think about the Texans, the Jets last year, they have these moments.
They do.
Where they let inferior competition beat them, and that's through 2 years of DeMeco. I know it sounds like I could be hating on DeMeco at the time. I'm just stating the facts here. I believe the Texans can win. I'm actually picking that they will win. So I got the Texans winning this one.
Another matchup to keep an eye out on is Christian Kirk versus the Jags. Now, nickel corner, Jordan Lewis came from Dallas. This is one of the best nickel corners in the NFL.
Like that one.
He is very physical. He's not afraid to come up and tackle. He's very feisty. And I know that we mentioned Christian Kirk as a key point in this offense and hoping to see him, bounce back. Whoever man in that slot is going to deal with a really physical, he's not a big guy, but he played real big. So that's a matchup that I think is going to be key too.
Also think about Folu Fadakasi, former Jaguar. They paid him and then released him. Folu Fadakasi going back down there to Jacksonville, going back to Duval. Maybe he wants to get some gig back. Christian Kirk in the same light. So it'll be a game for a while.
Cam Robinson too, man. They got some insider trading, man. They can use on some of the tendencies on Trevor Lawrence.
Well, let's give our 4-week-in prediction of where they're at. I'm gonna go full homer on you. They're gonna be 3-1. I don't respect the two division opponents.
I would do 3-1.
Oh,
part of me wanted to say 2-2.
We know Stan's gonna go 2-2.
I think one of these teams might surprise you. Guys are trying to get into game shape. Teams are still trying to figure things out. We talked about this offense and, the Texans having to learn a whole new offense. Yeah, we can go 3-1, but 2-2
I'm
is
gonna
fine.
go 3-1. That Jacksonville game scares me. We'll revisit that as we get closer. I'm just not ready to be dismissive of Jacksonville just yet.
We're going to look into the next 4
We
games.
all agreed.
Wait
a minute.
Never happened.
We all agreed.
It's never happened.
I know.
It probably won't happen on the next 4 games because the next 4 games are going to kick all out. We can all agree on the next 4. The one it starts with is going to be one we'll probably all say they lose just because we never see them beat them. But we'll do that Friday. Real quick, this past weekend, Stan, the Fanatics event up in New York was going on where they had a bunch of professional athletes do a bunch of things and give very promotional interviews. I loved the Kevin Durant interview where he's reacting to getting traded and with Kay Adams, and the entire time he's just doing promotions for the event that he's at, which was great. But CJ Stroud was there, and he had some things to say, I think specifically about last year, correct?
He did. I'll read the quote here as soon as I find it. He says, the more that I fail and still do well in those failures, the more confidence I gain. Last year was very, very, very helpful for me and my development. He says, for me, something that I've learned in my life is you can't be scared of failure. The only chance you have to be successful is to try. Sometimes it comes with success. Sometimes it comes with failure. And then he says again, but when I fail and still have success, winning a playoff game, playing in the division around, winning the division for the second time, even with the beef between him, Slowick, and the offensive line being some trash, CJ's mindset is, hey, I made the best of the circumstances. And if failure is playing in the second round of the playoffs, he's like, okay, cool. Then I can learn from that in his second year and be better moving forward. I am in the minority, and I'll be quick. CJ Stroud is a baller, no question. I have some apprehension about dumping everything on him, given what that skill position, specifically the wide receiver room, looks like, and what all those journeymen and the young guy on the offensive line. I just think it's a lot of new over there if you include Nick Caley. It could be a genius move, and it could be a hit, but this thing could go bad, and we've seen quarterbacks get broken, figuratively and literally, and I don't want that to happen to CJ.
Where'd you go, John?
I think last year was not classified. Some people classified as a sophomore slump. And while the numbers may show that, I agree with CJ, and I think that was the most professional way of him saying everything that I went through in 2024. I still carried the team to the playoffs. Mm-hmm. Missing Nico, missing Diggs for the season, half the season, losing Tank when I did. I still was able to go out there and make throws, and so I would say, to reflect on that statement, yeah, I kind of think that some people were a little bit too critical of CJ. Now, it's okay to be critical of CJ, and there's things to be critical about, but with everything that was breaking down around him, he still was a sophomore quarterback that led his team to a playoff win, albeit in a weaker division, but a dub is a dub, and a playoff win is still a playoff win in this NFL.
Yeah, I mean, I agree. I feel like a lot of the conversation I've heard about him is not within context, especially, John, when you mentioned everything that was going on around him. But I also think when he talks about this being a lesson learned for him, you gonna have years like that. You have seasons like that in NFL where it feels like ain't nothing going right for you. Your main guys get hurt. And as the quarterback, you have to take that on the chin and understand that you are the person that people look for inspiration or for reasoning. So I do think also, too, it could have been a character thing, a character building thing for him to understand what being a quarterback in this NFL calls for and how he's going to have to adjust if so. And so he probably picked up on some tendencies too on how people were trying to defend him because of that offensive line. And how can he learn from that? I agree with Stan. I don't like the quarterback position being microwave. So when you talk about a guy having complete autonomy, I guess, of the offensive line and, check-in and changing plays and things like that, I do think that's a fantastic thing. But I would much rather that be a gradual thing. And I also don't like when teams do it to take the onus off of some of the bad decisions that they've made team building wise. And I'll stay there with that.
Yeah, I think that's the right way to put it. It's gonna be interesting to see exactly how it plays out. I like you guys. I like everything that he said there. It was a tough season last year. There's no doubt about it. I think when you go back on it, the number one thing is you still, even if you called it a slump, if you wanted to be in that category where it's a slump, you still go back and find so many of those throws that he made just like his rookie year where you're like, my goodness, this guy is just, he's got something special to that arm and his ability to place it wherever he wants to place it. And you just hope that turns into a full season of it this year. And he's not getting killed, right? It's the simplest way to put it. All right. Another great show. Next show, Friday, we're going to have 4 more games to look at. We're getting closer and closer to training camp. Our parting shots, as always. John, you take the honors because, well, you've got the glass, sir.
Man, you know what? I have nothing to say. Oh, I do have something to say. It's cancer season, and it's my birthday in a couple days. So
Happy birthday.
I'll be having some real shots very soon, guys. Go Texans.
Good for you.
Stan?
4 weeks away from training camp. I think that when we start to do these breakdowns game by game, we're going to continue to have the exact same storylines. Like Frank Z over in the comments is saying, they unlock CJ, essentially let CJ cook. They worked at Ohio State. There's a Saturday and Sunday is 2 different games, my boy. I hope you're right, Frank Z. But the more I start actually looking at how this schedule lays out, still have the Texans winning 10 games, still haven't won in the division. But the road through this thing, it's going to be more bumpy than some people believe. We'll learn a lot about C.J. Stroud facing a very lucrative contract extension, and D'Amico Ryans, can he get this team over the hump? Could Caserio be managing for his gig if things don't go right? All of these are storylines that I don't know we're going to find out until we get to the end of this thing. But 3-1 through the first 4 games, not bad.
Iisha?
You're muted.
Oh, you're muted.
Sorry. We all agreed on the 3-1 thing. And to me, if this team does want to get off to that start, training camp and all this stuff is going to be essential. One thing that I have learned in the little time I've been in this business, talking to head coaches, is that first 4 to 6 weeks is really pivotal. And if you can steal some wins during that time, it's going to help you on the back end. You got a lot of guys that's going to be breathing wind in these games. These guys are trying to get acclimated to these new offenses, defenses, coaches, whatever. Come in there as prepared as you possibly can and steal some of these games. So if you have like a rough patch, you can weather that. So that's how I feel about the beginning of the season.
I feel like the Texans are probably going to go 16-1. That's going to be my party.
Michael,
you're just going to go ahead and get it from me. I'm just going to go full homer the entire way until we get there, and then I'm going to be convinced that they stink, just like I do with every single team in the city of Houston. Well, that's going to do it for us here tonight. We appreciate those of you that are watching live. I hope you guys can't hear my dog down here deciding the show needs to end. But
we heard him.
Yeah, he's barking now because one of the other ones is barking outside. We'll be back Friday for another edition of the Locked On Texans Squad Show. Between now and then, take care of yourself, take care of others. We'll talk to you then.